Have you ever looked at a new product, one with a slick design, tons of features, backed by a super smart team, and just watched it completely tank? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on the silent killer of great ideas. It's a critical blind spot that costs companies billions, and we're going to get right into it.
Seriously, just picture it for a second. You and your team, you spend months, maybe even years, pouring every ounce of your passion, your money, and so many late nights into building something you truly believe in. You think it's revolutionary, it looks great, it's packed with features, and you're just convinced it's going to change the game.
And then you launch. You're expecting the fireworks, the applause, and you get crickets. The product just flops. And look, this isn't some rare cautionary tale. It is one of the most common and frankly most painful realities in the world of innovation. So what on earth is going wrong here?
Well, here's a wild statistic from the research firm Gartner that really gets to the heart of it. A huge 80% of product failures, they aren't because the tech was bad or the execution was sloppy. Nope. They fail because of a massive misunderstanding of the very people they were trying to build for.
And that brings us to the core of the problem, what we can call the billion-dollar guess. It's this super common and super dangerous practice of building entire products on a foundation of, well, assumptions, internal beliefs, gut feelings, instead of cold, hard evidence about your users. Let me say that again, because it's really important. Your product can be an absolute engineering marvel, a technical masterpiece, but if it doesn't solve a real-world problem for your users in a way that actually makes sense to them, it's pretty much doomed. You know, the most expensive mistake you can possibly make is to perfectly build the wrong thing.
Which leads us to probably the single most important mindset shift in all of product development. It's the root cause of all those bad assumptions, and it's a simple, kinda humbling fact. You are not your user. Even the smartest, most well-meaning teams fall into a few very predictable psychological traps.
This right here, this is the first line of what some people call the researcher's oath. And it's a mantra you have to live by. Your personal taste, your expertise, what you think is cool, that's just one single data point. To build something that people will actually use and love, you have to get out of your own head. Let's look at the biases that keep us stuck in there. Okay, first up is the curse of knowledge. It's this weird thing where once you know something, it becomes almost impossible to remember what it felt like not to know it. A perfect example, Apple's 3D Touch. The engineers and designers who built it, they loved it, but they knew it existed. They couldn't see that for a brand new user, the feature was basically invisible. No one ever found it.
Next, we've got a sneaky one, confirmation bias. This is our brain's natural habit of looking for proof that we're right and conveniently ignoring anything that suggests we might be wrong. Take Google Wave. The team behind it was in love with its complex, everything but the kitchen sink approach. They focused on all the data that supported their grand vision and kind of tuned out the early signs that real users were finding it totally confusing.
And finally, there's the false consensus effect. This is just the basic assumption that, of course, everyone thinks like you do. Remember that big, infamous Snapchat redesign back in 2018? The designers were convinced the new layout was way more intuitive. Turns out, 1.2 million users disagreed, so strongly that they signed a petition to change it back. So much for consensus, right?
So how do we fight these powerful, product-killing biases that are baked into our own brains? The answer is a disciplined, systematic process that serves as our reality check, and that is user research. At its core, user research is just the practice of actually studying your users to figure out what they need, what their challenges are, and how they behave in the real world. The whole point is to replace our dangerous assumptions with solid evidence, making sure every single design decision is centered on the user, not on us.
Now, a quick but important point. People mix up user research and market research all the time, but they are very different tools. Think of it like this. Market research tells you about the what. What are the market trends? Who are the competitors? User research zooms way in to tell you about the why. Why does a person behave a certain way? How do they actually use your product? And for design, that why, that's where the gold is.
Okay, so what does this research thing actually look like? Well, it's not just one thing. A good researcher has a whole toolkit, and the real skill is knowing which tool to pull out for which job. Let's break down a simple way to think about these methods. First, you can pretty much split all research into two big buckets. On one side, you have generative research. This is all about exploration. You do it early to discover new opportunities and really define the user's problem. You're generating ideas.
On the other side is evaluative research. This is about validation. You have an idea, a prototype, a solution, and you're testing it to see if it actually works for people. To get even more specific, we can use this awesome 4-quadrant model. On the up and down axis, you've got what people say, their opinions, their attitudes, versus what they actually do, their behavior. And on the side-to-side axis, you have qualitative data, the deep why, versus quantitative data, the how many at scale. So depending on your question, you pick a quadrant. For example, if you need to know why people are abandoning their shopping cart, you do qualitative interviews. But if you need to know what percentage of people are clicking a new button, that's a job for quantitative analytics.
Now, I know this can sound like a lot of extra work, and sometimes it is, but the payoff, the impact of moving from guesswork to real evidence is absolutely enormous. Investing in user research isn't just another expense. It's honestly one of the highest return investments any business can make.
Check this out. A landmark study from IBM found that for every single dollar you invest in user experience, the return on that investment is a whopping $100. That is an ROI of almost 10,000%. It's insane. And why? Because good research saves you from the massive, soul-crushing cost of building the wrong thing. The benefits are just so clear. When you deeply understand your users, you build products they're happier with, and that builds loyalty. You find those expensive, glaring flaws way early in the process, when fixing them is cheap, not after you've already launched. And most importantly, you dramatically lower the risk of building something that nobody actually wants.
And here is a final, really crucial insight. The goal of great research-driven design isn't for users to stop and say, wow, what an amazing design. The true goal is for the design to be so smooth, so intuitive, that it just disappears. It becomes invisible. People don't praise it, they just use it. They get on with their tasks, effortlessly.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question. Think about whatever you're working on right now. Your current project, your team's next big idea, that startup you're dreaming about. Is it being built on what you think people need or what you know they need? Is its foundation made of risky assumptions or is it built on solid evidence? Because that answer could be the difference between a silent launch and a massive success.